a fantastic internet safety, social media safety, all of the above program that I think we are just going to soak in on how to protect our kids, how to safeguard them, and how to be constantly on and maybe one step ahead of them. I don't know if that's ever possible, but he is going to do the best he can at keeping us that way anyway. We're excited to have his expertise here, and I'm going to turn it over to Tim while we finish eating.
All right, Tim.
Oh, wow. I'll do some adjustments right here real quick. If I happen to pop this thing off and start running around, don't hold it against me. I don't stay still very often. And so I am an investigator with Smith County Sheriff's Office. I've been in law enforcement for about 17 years. And through those years, I've learned a lot of things about the evil in this world that we face as parents, as foster parents, as employees with law enforcement, and many other areas of life that we find ourselves in. And one of the things that I really enjoyed when I got into adulthood was I'm a computer nerd. I was a computer tech when I was in college, and I was a computer tech after college, and I nerded out for several years until I found out that police cars go really fast and have really flashy lights, and they give me a gun and let me do a bunch of things that make my adrenaline dump really quickly. And so I kind of fell into a role in law enforcement that involved me getting to nerd out in the IT field, in the computer and technology world, as well as get all the fast cars with the flashy lights, with the badge and the gun, and all the adrenaline dumps and stuff as well. So, yeah, they cut me loose, and I had a lot of fun investigating internet crimes against children and also just other cyber crimes cases. But what it led me to is a quick understanding of the uphill struggle that parents will have trying to protect their children. And it's even harder when you start adding in different things like, well, foster child, stepchild, this child, that child, whatever child. And it's extremely difficult to stay ahead of the technology, much less have it be individualized for every child that you encounter. So what I came up with was just ways that you can help keep your children safe. And there's no switch that you can flip that's going to just protect your children. Not going to happen. It's the technology that's out there, and the apps that are out there, and the websites that are out there. There's billions, and there's no way that you'll be able to keep tabs on all of it. And so I've came up with ways for parents to have at least have a chance. And I want to share a little bit of that with you today, without going into any graphic detail or anything. Don't worry about anything popping up in this presentation. I do teach some trainings that are 18 years old or older, and I won't allow children in there for two reasons. I don't want them knowing my secrets, that I'm telling the parents to have their secrets and their tricks of the trade to keep things kind of under wraps. But at the same time, there's just content in some of those that are not appropriate for children and actually a violation of the law. So you don't have to worry about any of that today. It's not going to be anything super crazy, but I do want you to leave with some tools and resources, at bare minimum, a direction to go if you come across something that you may need help with. So without further ado, this thing's supposed to change when I click it, but it doesn't. Oh well. It's just buzzing at me. Will you hit the little right arrow since you're conveniently there eating tacos? All right. Is it not doing anything? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's me. That's my wife, the one that keeps me out of trouble-ish. And those are the three people that, we procreated, and they have all of our DNA. And I'm a handful, especially when I'm not medicated. And we created three more. And it's been one of the greatest blessings of my life. But one of the things that I remember holding my oldest, Isaac, when he was born, going, wow, I got to keep this dude alive. Like there's nobody else that's got the responsibility of doing that. I have to take care of this kid. And it was the first time I really felt that weight that we carry as parents to protect our children. And then as the reality sank in, as he got older, and then the other two came along, just keeping them safe. So that's my family. That's why I do what I do. I train detectives all the time when they can, and they're like, hey, what's the most important thing to know? I said, at 5 o'clock, you go home to your family. And so I'm very, very, I get pretty extreme when I talk about taking care of your family. And I do what I do to take care of those guys. And just by default, if I came across something that would help you too, that's why I get to get up here and talk to you about it. And if you see that big long list of stuff, that's not just because I do have a black belt in awesome, but that's not just to pat myself on the back. That's just to show that Laura and Justin and them, they didn't just yank me off the side of the street and said, hey, can you come talk to these folks for a while? I've got a lot of experience in what we're going to talk about, and unfortunately, I've seen the most vile and evil side of it. So I do work for the Smith County Sheriff's Office. I'm a criminal investigator, and I've been doing that for about 10 years, the investigation side of it. But all of that stuff is just to say there's a lot of things that I've seen over the past 17 years that I think that gives it a little more credibility. That it's not just somebody up here that read a Facebook post and says, hey, I think I can say that. That sounds really cool. No, I've lived this with these families, and if I can do anything to keep this from happening again, that's my goal. Okay, I do appreciate you being here. Normal people don't come to these things. People that want to do what's cool don't come to these things. People that really want to serve and help people come to these things. And so just you sitting in this chair, I have a great admiration for you and a deep respect. All right. Does anybody know where that is? I don't think anybody that's driving on it knows where that is either. If you consider what our kids have to face when they get online or when they get on social media or an app or a mobile device, anything that connects to other people, this is kind of like a fraction of a 1/10 of a 0% of what they may see. Okay, you can go anywhere at any speed and do whatever you want. And then on top of that, our kids are bombarded with things that are not confusing at all, and that may become distractions as they're trying to navigate this little roadway we call the internet and mobile device things. And then we continue to bombard them with other things, and they can't do this and this rule that, and then they have to do this, and then all of a sudden we're losing sight of where we were going to begin with all these distractions and confusing things. And you take a teenager going through puberty or pre-adolescence, and all of a sudden we've got confusion and problems beyond any belief, and we wonder if that child is even still human. But we keep getting distractions, and at some point this thing will continue to work, I promise. And it starts to get a little deeper, a little darker, and a lot worse as this thing tries to work. You just hit the arrow a couple of times. And then we start dealing with problems that they then don't have the ability to deal with or communicate properly or effectively about. Keep hitting click it until it, click it again, until it's anger and rage, and then when they do react and erupt from all of the confusion, all the things that they couldn't possibly deal with, they break. So how do we prevent that? How do we go forward when that has already happened? Somebody asked me as I was sitting there eating those really good tacos. I don't know who made those or made that. Those are epic. But they asked, how many of these presentations do you do? And I said, really, I don't do very many at all because I can't convince parents that they need it until it's too late. And so I jump on every chance that I get because it's a whole lot harder at this point to fix anything. Because you're not just in prevent mode, you're in, well, I have now a shattered child. Hey, look at this. What is it? Okay. All right, it does work. I'm going to, sorry, dude. I was making fun of your clicker. I'm sorry.
And it works.
It does work. Show off. So, well, it didn't. I clicked it twice, and there we go. Now it's gone. So, my goal when I do stand before parents or anybody that's an adult that can help share some insights with others, then I will take advantage of it. Because what we want to do is we want people to see the solution long before there's a problem, or at least have the direction to go, or the people that they can call on and ask, saying, hey, this is, I'm not a nerd, but I heard you are. Yeah, that's me, I'm the guy. Or whatever, finding somebody that can help you take the proper steps. And what I've done is taken about a whole day and a half to 2 day class and condensed it and crushed it into the nuts and bolts of just, give me something I can do. Give me something that I can share that's tangible and that's helpful. So I've broken down what you can do in these just three things. This is not the only thing. This again is just the tip of the iceberg. Point you in the right direction, and let Google and Wikipedia help you do the rest. But if we can prevent things from happening, then we've won the game. Okay. While we're going through this process of trying to keep kids safe while they're online, it takes a lot of monitoring, okay? And then it takes a lot of saying, no, we're not going to do that. A lot of limitation, okay? My 12-year-old is really testing the limits of his limitations that we have placed on him. I'm surprised myself how much that'll stretch. But the thing is they have to do that to really recognize what their boundaries are. And we really can't afford to risk having an uh-oh moment when we're dealing with what kids can see and do online. Okay? I think I've already had somebody talk about some of the dangers and stuff that kids face and what they see and the problems that follow when they do see things and do things that they're way too young to do. And we're not going to really get into the weeds of that. I really want to, show you things that you can do. But in a nutshell, prevention, monitoring, and limitations are going to help you do this. Okay. All right, prevention is, I can't find a better way to describe that other than that picture of you line up some dominoes and something has to be done to intervene before things get out of control. And how you can do that is restrict access to anything a kid has and utilize the parental controls that will help you do that. Like, well, what are parental controls? Every phone, every computer, every device has the capability of being controlled by a parent. And I'll mention a few of those ways later on in the presentation. But the fact of the matter is you have to get in and you have to intervene. We're not being friends here. We're not being the cool person. No, you have to get in and intervene. And you have to be able to intervene and not be able to explain why you're doing it. Because most parents that I deal with, they have absolutely no idea why they're actually doing it because they don't have the technical background to be able to say, well, if you do this, there's a lot of people out there doing this. What I tell them is simply, would you allow a stranger, registered sex offender, or anybody that's just killed a couple people and sexually assaulted people come and spend the night with your child in their bedroom with the door closed and locked? Would you ever allow that in your house? I'll throat punch anybody who says that's a good idea. I'm just saying, if you want to be honest, that was sarcasm. I don't really throat punch people. It's against the law, unless they just need it. But the fact of the matter is when we get these little guys right here and we hand them to our kids, that's exactly what we're doing. with millions of them at a time, potentially. So we have to understand what we have to do. We have to intervene and say, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. My children don't have cell phones. We have a cell phone that each of them will use if they're going to their grandparents' house or at a birthday party or something like that. So they have a way to communicate with us no matter what. But they don't have a cell phone that's theirs that they take into their bedroom and they do whatever they want, whatever the Snapface app is. I know it's not Snapface, guys. I know it's Snapchat and Facebook. That was another joke there, sorry. Some of you are like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know anything if he thinks that's real. Well, I might go start another app. You never know. But when we can get in there and we can restrict access from the beginning, that's where you start winning the game. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. You hand a kid a phone and say, I don't know how to do that. The kid's like, I do. All of a sudden, it makes breakfast for you. You know, all these things you never knew there was an app for that. Or whatever, and then all of a sudden they start accessing things that they probably shouldn't access. You say, well, don't they have ratings? I set the phone age to like 13. Well, guess what? That's cute. But let's talk about reality, okay? Because if you can think of a way to prevent something, kids can think of 13 ways to circumvent that. So there's 60 steps ahead of you already. So just know, if you lock that sucker down before they can ever touch it or even breathe on it, you're going to be better off, okay? So you have to restrict the access to the device itself and then whatever they have access to. Now, who are my iPhone folks in here? I'll pray for you. I'm so sorry. You guys are stuck in that little. Where are my Android folks? Okay, thank you. Blessings. We got to get those numbers up, guys. I mean, the Fisher-Price toys are almost winning out with those iPhones. How many of you can tell me if there's another option out there? What's another option? Does Motorola even make phones anymore? Yes, they do. So let me ask you this. You've got Android versus iOS. Windows doesn't make phones anymore. Does anybody else have a phone out there? Somebody's going to kick off. Well, one time I was in Korea. I was like, oh, no count. No. We're talking about right here. So there's actually a company out there called Bark. Their website's bark.usa. They actually provide a phone and phone service specifically for keeping kids safe and help parents monitor their kids' devices and usage. So the thing is they've been around for years, and you know their staff is some of the kindest people ever. Their CEO called me one time. He's a dude from England. He's like, "Hello, Tim." I'm like, "Whoa." I get nervous. I don't know what to do with my hands, and he doesn't even see them. And I'm like, this guy, I don't know. And well, he just said, "Hey, I saw some of your posts. And just wanted to, on our Facebook thread for parents. Just wanted to, pick your brain about some stuff." And like, this guy's like borderline famous, and he called me, and I felt really cool. But it was really these people truly want children to be safe, and that's bark.us is their website. And it is one of the most effective tools for parents being able to monitor, limit, and control what their kids are doing online. It will send you a text if there's something inappropriate that's being texted about, or you can log in to certain apps through this software or their app and be able to, it will automatically in real time monitor things that are being said and being done. So there's always going to be options available for you to win this fight. Okay? I give you that one to tell you there's probably 1,000. And we just don't have the time to go into all of them. But just know, with a little bit of research of parental control apps, third-party parental control, using the parental controls that are on it, things like that, there's going to be plenty of resources out there to help you lock that device down and control everything the kid can and cannot do. And that is ultimately the only way you're going to even have a fighting chance, much less win this battle. You're like, wow, this is getting depressing real fast. Hey, take heart. It's just going to be a constant battle from the time that they get that device until they graduate and go out on their own. So we're looking maybe a decade. So at the most, so that's, you can spend 10 years of day in and day out. Yes, it's going to take a whole lot of work. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't have a cell phone growing up. I was 18 when I got you remember the StarTAC from Radio Shack? And then I was like, yeah, that was my first cell phone. I didn't die because I didn't have a cell phone. How many of you didn't have a cell phone growing up? Okay, nobody died. We survived. It was okay if you didn't talk to your friend for like an hour or 5 or 10 or tomorrow, see you at school. Nobody died. You know what? If you don't think your kid can handle something, you know where that restriction starts? It's like, yeah, you're not getting one. But what's the reality? They go to school and say, hey, can I borrow your phone? Okay, so now they have wide open, unfettered access to whatever they want. So you're like, oh, Tim, you're getting depressing again. Okay. We can only do so much. So we're restricting and utilizing the parental controls. Where are my iPhone guys again? Okay, y'all can leave. Andrew, just kidding. iPhone guys, are you familiar with screen time? Okay, if you're not, get familiar with screen time because that is one of the most robust parental controls that you can get on the market. Okay, and I know I make fun of iPhones and that stuff, but that right now that is the most robust. Comes with the device parental controls that you find. Now here's the problem with that. It is extremely complicated, and there are a lot of on-off switches that you have to go in and you have to learn what each and everything does. But would you rather spend a couple of hours figuring something out or spend a couple of hours waiting on your kid to get out of an FI, a forensic interview, because something bad happened to them, and now there's going to be this lifelong process of rebuilding? I'm going to go ahead and bet that couple of hours of learning how to use screen time is probably worth 100% worth it because it will stop things before things get started. It will give you, as a parent, the control of that entire device. And guess what? You can do it from your phone if you have an iPhone. Okay? I highly recommend if parents have an iPhone, you get your kids iPhones. If your parent has Android, get your kids Android. Because it's usually a whole lot easier to be able to do the parental control thing remotely. If my son has a cell phone and he's blowing me up and everybody else he knows in a group text message over and over and over, I'll hit a button and shut that down and make it a clock and a paperweight that fast. And then I get that phone call because the only thing he can do, guess what? Call me. That's the only thing he can do other than having a paperweight and a clock. He calls me, Dad, would you guys like, hey, after the 1,341 text message I got from you, bro, I'm teaching right now. I can't have that. Sorry. Say, are we going to text anymore today? Because you've already used the next 5 years of your text messages up. You're done. What was that? I thought I heard and not a yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, just checking. Because you know what happens if you don't do those things? Instantaneous obedience is the only option with a cell phone. You understand? You remember that? We had that conversation. Yes, sir. What happens if you don't? It disappears. Yes. Remember the last time it disappeared? How long did it disappear for? I don't remember exactly. So we have to have those conversations with them. There is no gray area whatsoever. Because the moment that you paint it gray, they'll take it and paint it white. Or they'll take it and paint it white. And it'll be one extreme in any direction. You will have no control whatsoever. But if they have that understanding and clear set boundaries of what they can and can't do with it, you're going to win the game. Okay? All right. How many of you knew that there were parental controls in your Wi-Fi router? Okay, some people. You know, it's amazing those hands get a little less and less as we go a little deeper into the weeds here. It doesn't matter what Wi-Fi router you have now. The word is out on the street that people are not tolerating not being able to help keep their kids safe. And so these companies are starting to implement more and more adequate tools and effective tools to allow parents to keep their kids safe. You can set web content filters on your router. You can set device filters on your router where you can have an open network for guests and all that. You know, you remember you got this network, and you name it funny things and whatever to make your neighbors mad. Well, I can't get this Wi-Fi for free or whatever, and then they hack it. All that stuff. Yeah. But you change all those settings, Oh wait, most people didn't even know you could change the settings on those. How many of you have actually gone into your Wi-Fi router and changed the admin username and password? Okay. Now I want you to tell on yourself. How many of you have no idea what I'm talking about? Okay. Here's how easy it is to hack into your Wi-Fi at your house. Your username is admin, all lowercase, and I guarantee you the password is either password all lowercase or ABC123 or maybe 1234. And I have complete access to your network. Not only that, I can take that over your network, shut it out, where you are locked out of your own Wi-Fi, and there ain't nothing you can do about it but to unplug it, smash it with a hammer, and go get a new router. If you have changed your username and password to your router, it makes it a little more difficult. It takes about an hour and a half to do all that instead of just being able to free. Wait a minute. What did I just say? Yeah, there's YouTube videos on how to just do that. But the fact of the matter is you've got to set yourself up for success, or your kids still ain't got a chance. So this is what I highly recommend you do when you go home, if you raise your hand and have no idea what I'm talking about. If you go home and you basically open up a browser and you type in, while you're on the Wi-Fi, you type in those numbers right there. Instead of www.google.com, you type in 192.168.1.1 and hit enter. It's going to open up your interface to your router. And it's going to ask you for username and password. I highly recommend you change that as soon as you get home. Okay? Because when I start meddling around, and when I go places, churches are really fun to mess with, because a lot of times, Farmer Bill's nephew that knows computers came and set all this up. They was like, yeah, whatever. Took us $200 and left. Probably didn't change anything. Go in and say, hey guys, did you know that anybody can get this? Yeah, so you probably need to fix that. But there are also some things in there that when you pop it up, it's going to pop up a screen something like this. Maybe something like that. It's going to have something where you can do and make changes to the system settings. If you live in Tyler and you've got Vexus, their little setup is you can do it through your cell phone and stuff. There's options that you can go in. Now, if you look on the left side of there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one down is what? Parental controls. Well, that's convenient. What happens if you click on that? I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of things in there that you're like, wow, that's pretty nice. I can set restrictions on what websites come into the house and come out through the Wi-Fi. It'll never leave the router. Okay. But what's the issue still? We can do all this, but if it's a cell phone and they still have cell activity. Remember the screen time and the stuff that we talked about, those parental controls? You can go in to have it when it's on Wi-Fi, it won't use the cell signal. Wait a minute, we can do that? Yes, you can. So you might have to go in and think outside the box for some of these solutions. Well, they won't be able to text and call. Yeah, they can, because you can do it over Wi-Fi. That's old technology. If you have a cell phone, a smartphone, you can make phone calls and text without having a cell signal. You can do it over Wi-Fi. That's easy. So shut off their cell signal and make them, when they step foot into the house, if it connects to that router, make that phone connect to the Wi-Fi and turn off the cell signal. Then they have to use whatever you give them. Well, you shut off all the pornographic websites. You shut off all the websites that teaches girls how to be anorexic. You shut off all the websites that teach kids to be terrorists. You shut off all the stuff that just makes them be little hellion children. And you shut off all the stuff that you feel is inappropriate. And when you find more stuff, you go in and you shut that off too from the source. Right there. So regardless of what you have, if you have a Netgear or whatever type of router you have, and you don't know how, and that number I gave you, that 192.168.1.1 doesn't work, then it's probably something very close to Google. User settings for this router. Boom, it's going to pop it up. Okay? Did you know that when you buy something like that, it comes with this little book? It's got all the instructions in it. I had no idea, and it's called an instruction manual. I had no idea. If you read that, it tells you everything. No, I say that joking because I'm the one that tosses it and has to go dig it out of the trash when I can't figure something out. But guys, I'm telling you, if you just get in there and learn what you can do, it's going to blow your mind. Imagine sitting across from a parent and be able to share something like this with them. And when they're like, I had no idea. You don't have to tell them you had no idea when you sat in here 15 minutes ago. And you just tell it like you wrote that book. I wrote this instruction manual just for you. Because here's the thing, it's not about anybody getting credit for it. It's about us protecting our kids, right? So take all of this, get really good at it, and share it with somebody else. Oh, and I pity your own kids trying to try something on you, because you're going to, by you doing this and becoming more aware of this, you're going to be a vital resource not only for you and your family, but the public. So, does anybody have any questions? Because if you do, write them down, and I'll try to answer them at the end. All right, so we talked about parental controls, and I said iPhone screen time is by far the most robust and the hardest for kids to bypass. Apple has basically set the standard in consumer level technology for being safe, as in nobody can break into it. But if you give your kid an iPhone before you set the access and the parameters to it, who now has absolutely no access and will never get access? Well, that'd be you. So coupling great technology like screen time with I'm going to lock this sucker down and I'm going to hold all the keys, that has to be priority. Or it's done. You'll have to literally get another device. So Android has one that I'm an Android guy, and I know more Androids than Apples, or Team Android. Family Link is a Google app. Everybody knows Android is a Google company, right? Yeah, Google owns everything. You're like, well, if it's Google, I don't want Google having my. Google has your information. Sorry, not sorry. Google knows. You know, it's kind of not quite as powerful, but kind of like God already knows. If it's out here in this world, Google has either got a picture of it or a snapshot. Google already knows. They knew before you knew. Okay? That's the reality of Google. I know it might shock you, but yeah, you're not going to tell them anything that they don't already know about you. Google Family Link allows you to monitor and control an Android device that will, in the same way that screen time will. You can set time limits on both of on whether screen time or Family Link. You can shut that sucker down if you need to. You can locate your child. Apple is not really too keen on that because they're all about, I don't care who the user is, child or an adult. If they don't want to be found, we're not going to help you find them. That's one reason I lean towards Android, especially with kids, is because if I want to know where Isaac is when my boys are playing, other two boys are playing baseball, and he's running around the ballpark like a hyena high on Skittles and Mountain Dew, I can just pull out my phone and look. Okay. I can at least yell and he hear me. You know, when if you ever are in Walmart and hear somebody yell Marco, and three little voices come back, say, "Hello!" That's us. Because I've never embarrassed my wife more than I did the first time that I said, "Hey guys, you know the game? We've played Marco Polo before." Yeah. All right. If I can't find you, I'm going to yell Marco. And what do you yell? Polo. Okay, good. We didn't tell Mom. So I'm in Walmart. I'm like, Marco! 17 aisles over, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Did you hear it? That's good, right?" She's like, as she turned right around, I said, "That makes me happy." But it was one of those deals where I can now just go and pull it up. But there's so many tools, enough that I could spend 2 days going through all these little different things about screen time and Family Link that I think it's more important to just point you in that direction. let you do a little bit of research on your own. I think that you guys are more than capable of doing that. Here's one thing that I have to stress. I have 3 boys. Isaac, he's one that's quasi-responsible. He does a good job about being responsible with it when he has the cell phone and not doing inappropriate things other than the billions of text messages. I look probably from he's 12, for the next 6 years until he's 18, I'll probably have to ground him from time to time, take the phone away, let it disappear for a month or 2 at a time. I'll probably have to do that a couple of times. My middle child, Will just turned 10. He's probably he's more responsible than anybody else in my family, my wife and I included. Will is he just chooses to make good decisions, and it will by it because I know where he came from. I said that didn't happen in this brain or my wife's, and she'll tell you that. But he makes good decisions. I may have to ground him a couple of times. I foresee that, and no kid's perfect. But let me tell you about Davey.
What's that last one?
Well, some of you have met Davey and know Davey. Davey is 8, going on 25, with a doctorate, smartest guy in the room, but doesn't know it. So just kind of keep that under wraps. The kid was doing algebra at 4 years old. He's a brilliant kid with no impulse control. So let me tell you about the first year when Davey gets his very own cell phone. The first year, the first 364 days of it, he's going to be grounded from it. I can guarantee you. And he might get it one whole day somewhere in between there. But Davey's going to be the one that these come in very handy because, oh, bless his heart, he is got probably the kindest, sweetest heart, but wants to know if that can blow up or not. Carrie came out one day and said, "Hey, you know Davey's in the backyard with aluminum foil, 2 9-volt batteries, and some wire." I was like, "Oh, I know exactly what he's doing. He's trying to melt the foil and watch the wires melt." I mean, yeah, let's stop that. And she's like, whoa, wait a minute, what? I was like, okay, all right, before you get mad, I accidentally touched an SOS pad to a 9-volt battery in front of him to watch it disintegrate. And so that's my bad. So I'm the bad influence here. So Davey, he gets something and runs with it, so I can't even blame him. But the fact of the matter is, not one child is going to be the same when you start doing this. Okay, you remember the first 3 things I had up there? We're going to have to do a lot of prevention, a lot of restrictions, a lot of monitoring. Okay, I'm going to have to do a lot more restricting on Davey than I am going to do monitoring. I'm just going to have to stop him from doing it before he stumbles across it. I'm going to have to do a lot less monitoring because I've got everything shut down or he just doesn't have it in his possession. You see how when monitoring is high, the restrictions are going to be lower. But when you lower the restrictions, you have to increase your ability to monitor. Well, Davey comes onto the scene and you restrict everything. Guess what? Your monitoring is the fact that he can't do anything other than hold down papers in the wind and has a clock. Those are the things that you have to keep in mind, and every child is different. There is no way that you can set a set of tools, boom, there, and flip that switch, and everybody in your family be safe. Remember I said it's going to take hours and hours of work almost all the time? Yes. Okay, that's not something that I try to hide to make people not. No. You need to know the effort that it takes so I know you're doing it right. Okay? I'm a firm believer if you're going to do something, do it right or don't do it at all. But we all know what's going to happen if we leave this stuff up to our children. Now, let me ask y'all this. Raise your hand if you think that it is more of the child's responsibility to make good decisions while they have the device or the parent. Raise your hand if you think it's more of the child's responsibility. Okay. Raise your hand if you think that it's an equal amount of both. Okay. A few hands. How many of you think that it's the sole responsibility of the parent to make sure that their child stays safe no matter what? Okay? You're like, well, wait, whoa. I'm embarrassed now because I didn't put my hand up at the right time. Okay. I remember this is going to fall in that we ain't friends categories. This is about keeping our kids safe. I ain't trying to hurt your feelings, but I don't want you to think that a dude's brain's not going to develop until they're 25 years old at bare minimum. I've only had a fully developed brain for about 10 years, and I'm 44 years. No, see, I can't even do math. The fact of the matter is we want a 9-year-old to make good decisions, and we want to leave the responsibility of whether or not they see the Pornhub website or not up to them. Have you met a 12-year-old boy? I mean, can we get real? Do you want to leave it up to your teenage daughter to make good decisions when they're crazy, boy crazy, and trying to keep up with the Joneses and have to be like, Dad, everybody, will you make me do this? That, what? I don't know. I've never had girls, but I'm just saying I've heard horror stories. I might have made a lot of things up just then, but let me tell you, I just heard it's a nightmare. Just say the worst environment imaginable, and put gasoline and light it. That's just what I've heard. But do you want to leave the responsibility of their well-being for the rest of their life up to them? No. It is 100% the responsibility of the parent to make sure that child remains safe. Now, I'm not saying you can't give them a little bit of rope to let them have some freedom. But that freedom has to be relative to their maturity and their capability to make good decisions. It has to be. I'm the adult that can't math right. And I'm responsible for 3 of these little guys. And it's almost impossible, it seems. But as the parent, they are solely responsible for that child's well-being. So that's where the buck stops when we start talking about this stuff, okay? How are we doing on time? Still doing pretty good? All right, just chunk something at me, or just shut my laptop down. It's time for me to stop out here. All right. Yeah, Justin said this clicker works a lot better. So.
It did.
There we go. All right. All right, so when you're setting screen time and stuff, this is kind of some things that you may see. You can see there's time. You can guide them. You can use that on the cell phone devices to utilize for content restrictions and things, privacy settings and things like that. There's laws in place that websites and certain apps and applications now have to follow. It's been in place since 1998, but nobody's really cared until Snapchat and all these apps started coming on and literally providing child pornography to the masses. I mean, like what? Yeah. Whatever the case may be, and so now all of these laws are being enforced a lot more, and so being able, that's why they're putting things out like this, where you can know where your kids are, you know what your kids are doing, and you know what they have access to, and you can shut down anything that you don't want them to have. Right? So you get notifications when they leave certain areas, i.e., if you get a notification that they are no longer in their school, it's because you set a perimeter around their school of 100 feet, and once they cross that threshold, boop, dad alerted. So-and-so left school. What are you doing? I'm in math class. Oh, really? That's fun because it looks like you're at the convenience store next door. Well, yeah, that's what I meant to say, Dad. So there was a convenience store right next door to my elementary school. Joe Wright, anybody from Jacksonville? Anybody from Jacksonville? Yeah, so they built Champs right next door and I would sneak off and go buy candy with my lunch money, come back and sell it, and make about 3 times the amount of lunch money. And my parents couldn't figure out why I was gaining so much weight until they said, well, there's the candy store on it, sells, buys candy, sells it, and buys more food. Busted. It'd be nice to know that before that ever happened. So this is what screen time would look like when you set it up. You set up as a parent don't make the mistake that some parents do. They set their phone up as the child, and once you do it, it's very hard to make you grow up and make your phone know that you're grown up. Just letting you know. Make sure you select for your device, you're the parent, and then their device, they're the child, because it allows you to control that device, no matter what. And it is as simple as, this is my phone, this is my child's phone. You would think that, well, I wouldn't be saying it if we haven't had to factory reset the phone and all that jazz. But anyways, this is kind of what it looks like if you start digging into it. Now you have downtime, it's very similar to the Android family link. You can have, at 9 o'clock, our kids' devices are off. We set them a 30-minute a day limit. You want to go down a rabbit hole? How many of my ADHD folks in here? Bless you. Bless you. You want a side quest? Here's a side quest for this evening's video scrolling. Find out what screen time, excessive screen time, does for children from the age of birth all the way up through 18 years of age. And start seeing what excessive screen time does for each age group. It'll blow your mind. We're raising a bunch of psychopaths in a nutshell. Very, very little empathy. Very, very much so on the I'm going to go do psycho things that they make movies about and scare people. All right. So you have all these tools and resources available to you for your devices. I know that Windows has, they have their version of it. I know Macs, it's screen time on all across the board on all theirs. There are devices that, most of the mainstream devices have some way that you can use parental controls in some form or fashion. Now we talked about the screen time, and we talked about Family Link, and I mentioned briefly Bark.us. Bark has apps for if you have an Android or an iPhone that you can install Bark on your kid's device and monitor and limit and control things from your device as well. Now here's the problem: if you're utilizing Bark, it is about a 24-hour turnaround on the data that you can get, because it basically has to download a backup of the iPhone the moment that your kid comes home. So all the things that they've done all day long, and even possibly since they left the house, if they go to stay the night at a friend's house or something, it's only going to bring you all that data when they come back, and you have it set to automatically download that backup from the iPhone. I told you, iPhone device, Apple is very, very difficult to work with when it comes to knowing what data is on somebody's phone or what they've been saying or doing. And that's a protective feature for it. Like the reason we have at the sheriff's office, we have issued iPhones, is for that very reason. I could leave this with anybody, and just short of being like a master Russian hacker, I'm not worried about you getting into this. Now, I say that, we have a device we can plug it into, and within an hour or a year or two, it will eventually crack it. True story, I had a case, it took a year and a half for it to crack dude's iPhone because he had a long password book. We do have access to things that will get us into them for law enforcement purposes, but for you, paperweight. So but with the third-party apps, there are still tools and resources out there. Well, which ones? Well, Google search it. Say third-party parental control apps, and you'll find 100 of them. Well, which one's the best? I don't know. I only have 3 kids, and we only use one. What works for us might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. What works for you might not work for the parents that you're working with, or so on and so forth. It takes effort, is all I'm saying. You might have to do a little research. You might have to do a little playing with things. What I do know is finding companies like Bark, you can call them, and that representative is not going to hang up with you until your problem is solved. Well, how long will that be? It could take 2 minutes, it could take 2 hours. Who knows? It depends on which problem it is and what you're trying to get it to do or not do. The fact of the matter is there are tools and resources available to you that some are free, some of them cost, but the fact of the matter is a lot of times you're going to get what you pay for. Google is going to be a huge tool because it's going to show you so many options that you didn't realize were available to you, because I just don't have time to share them all with you. Do a little digging, do a little research. You want to find out what's really good? Go watch a YouTube video. Is such and such app good? Pop up a video. They're going to tell you. Tell me some YouTuber that don't want to tell you their opinion on whatever. They're going to tell you. You're going to find out real quick. Okay. Here's some more screenshots of being able to just know what your kid's doing, know what they're accessing, how long they're accessing it for, you look at the bottom right, the most used apps. Your teenage daughter has a baby feeding app. That's kind of weird, or whatever. You know what makes a good investigator? Somebody that sees something there that's not supposed to be there, or doesn't see something that's supposed to be there and recognizes it. As a parent, you've got to do a lot of that, especially when it's something like this. Well, did you know that there's calculator apps that you can hide like pictures and videos? Yeah, that was 15 years ago. Sorry, Snapchat does that for you instantly now. Technology changes so fast, and the way that you hide things and kids can do things and circumvent things is astounding. But the way you find them is through what are they doing with most of their time. You can tell a lot about somebody by their checkbook if they ever let you see what they spend their money on, because that's what's going to be important to them. Time's the same way. You only spend time on things that are important to you for the most part, if you have a choice in the matter. So you start looking at what time is spent on these devices, and it's going to tell you a lot about that kid and what they're doing or not doing. If it's math class and all of a sudden they got a whole lot of Snapchat going on, that's probably why they fail in math. I don't know how I passed, I'm just saying. All right, let's move along. All right. This is where it starts to get a little too late. But is it really ever too late? No. I don't care who the kid is. I don't care where they're from. I don't care what their socioeconomic background is. I don't care what their race is. I don't care who they are, start to finish. I don't think that there's ever a child that we should ever say, yeah, they're lost. Can't help them. But when we get to the point where we are now observing our behaviors stemming from screen time, probably a good indicator we need to start making some changes. Or if somebody says, hey, my kid's dealing with like this, that, and another. I tell you the majors right here. These are some of the first signs that you're going to see when there's a lot of things going on online. Kids are doing things online and they do something or say something that now they don't know what to do. There's going to be a lot of anxiety. People send photos and videos of themselves, these kids are sending photos and videos of their bodies. Can't get that back, and when they realize that depression's going to set in pretty quick. You're going to see a lot of changes in their behavior. Aggression. One of the funniest things I've ever seen and the saddest things I've ever seen, when my wife was pregnant, we almost had a hotel room built into Mercado's because that was her food of choice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm okay with it because I love Mercado's. But we were in there one day, and I saw this family come in, big family, probably where everybody's birthday's getting celebrated at once, big family coming in. And put this little maiden and 1-year-old in the chair and stuck an iPad right in the face. Bam. She went to town. Food came. Mama did what? Took said iPad. What do you think happened next? Okay. In case you didn't hear about it, World War III already took place, and it was that day with that little 1-year-old going nuts because she took the iPad. Okay? It might have been there half an hour. She was nuts. But screamed like you had, like you're killing this child. Screamed. So they took that iPad away. I didn't get to do that when I was a kid. When I did, I would wake up 3 days later, and Mama would help me go find my eye and put it back in, and we would go about life again. We didn't do that, but you know what? There's something different about when with these screens. What is it? Look at the very bottom one. What's that last one say? You ever seen somebody try to come off of heroin cold turkey? You ever seen somebody try to come off meth cold turkey? Fill in the blank with whatever narcotic. Guess what? That's the same brain chemistry that's kind of going on. And guess what? They're going to have that same withdrawal if they're addicted to that screen. So when you start seeing these things, that's when you know that there's problems, and you don't need to wait to ask questions. That's when you have to. Yes, I could say, well, you should have already done X, Y, and Z. Well, you know what? I'm not judging anybody because we all. There's no way to be perfect at this, but this is some of the things that you can start saying, why is that persistent? Okay. Aggression, defiance, bullying, withdrawal symptoms. If you don't know what it looks like, go Google search that and watch some YouTube videos. It's sad when there are parents that don't understand the gravity of this and the need to prevent and all those things, but also when these things are starting to progress into lifelong permanent issues. And again, whose responsibility is it to protect our children? And these protections will have an impact for the rest of their life, and that's the hard part that I think a lot of people don't understand is how permanent the damage is with what kids can see and do online. Okay, it's devastating to families, and again, I can't convince parents to see the value and importance of learning how to do this until their kids already sent that video or that picture, and it's forever out there. And they're going to have to live with their friends knowing about it and making fun of them, and then for the rest of their life knowing that that's out there. It's too much for a kid to bear. So, I am not the world's expert on all this. I've just seen firsthand for the last 15 years what this can do to families, and being the nerd that I am, was able to find out ways that can at least point you in the right direction. Okay. That's my office number, but I'm never in my office. Just saying. However, I do have my email on my work phone, so I do have that all the time. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to email me and ask it. Because here's how that conversation is going to go. It's like, hey, I hate to bother you. Well, you're not. So go ahead and click send and ask your question. Ask your question and click send. Because I would much rather take the time to answer that question as best I can, or point you in the direction to where that answer lies, than to say, yeah, I don't have time for that. It's up here, so I do have time for it. Okay? This is, I'm going to say I told you so. So there it is. T. McDonald at smith-county.com. Now, a lot of people put .org or .gov, and that gets you nowhere. I'll never see it. So it is .com. smith-county.com. Do any of you have any questions that I could possibly answer? Yes, ma'am. Now, I can't hear very well because I'm a firearms instructor, so you have to yell it.
You said that if you have an Android, you can do Android. If you have an Apple, you can do Apple. But I want to start with Bark. Does that work well with Apple?
Okay. Bark has its own device, and Bark has its own cell company built in. So it is self-maintained. So that is something. Being that Bark has an app for you on any device, that's totally fine. Now, you can get the Family Link app on an iPhone, but there's more to that than just are they compatible. If I'm looking at an Android and I've only known iPhones my whole life, what are the chances I'm going to miss something? Now, Bark is a little different because that's something that you could learn, you would have to learn anyways if you were using it on any phone. But utilizing their device and their stuff with it already built in, it's less likely that there's going to be any cracks or wiggle room in that. So the best way to find out if it's the best solution for you is, like I said, they have the best customer support available. Just call them and talk to them and say, hey, what are our options? What am I capable of with them getting a phone as opposed to using an Android or an iPhone with Bark? And they're going to line it out for you. Very good question. Yes?
Speak a little bit about the ages. I think with Google, there's like some ages until they turn 13, and then also helping kids transition as they turn 18, so their brains can actually fully develop for another handful of years.
So you're kind of in a rock and a hard place there. There are a lot of restrictions placed on devices and apps and stuff for age. But guess what? Is there really a way to verify that I am 13 or 18? Because I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I'm actually a 13-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed cheerleader from an East Texas middle school, and you have no idea that it's a bald, fat detective sitting in Smith County Sheriff's Office, because I have undercover profiles that I use to conduct certain investigations. Yeah, so the fact of the matter is there's no true verification that you are of age. Now, the state of Texas has made a lot of progress with websites that you actually have to send photo ID to these companies. You can't get on to Pornhub videos without verifying your ID. You cannot get on to where people sell pictures of their feet all the time, or whatever they do. It's whatever website that is. OnlyFans. You have to show an ID. You have to actually take a photo of your ID and send it. But even then, can I get somebody else's ID to send it? Now, their OnlyFans just started. Like, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I have to be on there sometimes because that's where a lot of our trafficking and stuff comes from. But anyways, but OnlyFans, it will actually make you hold your phone up and take a picture of your face, and it will use AI to determine if that's actually you in that ID, and if there's any discrepancy, it kicks you out and you're done. So there are steps being made, and it is forcing these websites and apps to do that, but the fact of the matter is there's always a way. There's always a way to circumvent some of that stuff. So we cannot ever rely on whether or not the apps are going to follow the law or not, because they could be trying to follow the law. And just these loopholes and these little gaps or these little cracks that you can slip through, kids are going to find those. They will be able to sniff those out. Ultimately, is having the most access and being able to set the most restrictions. My kids will not have social media. Well, how long? Well, when they're 18 and they're out on their own, they can choose to do that. Well, that's not fun. I don't care. If you want something for your side quest, ADHD folks, go Google bad things that can happen on Snapchat and watch those videos for about 30 seconds. The fact of the matter is having the restriction to know what your kid is capable of. If you can't monitor it, limit, and control it, they don't need to touch it. Guess what? You cannot monitor, limit, and control any social media effectively. Why? Because of those things. I just worked a child pornography case that my offender was 14 years old. And you want to know why? His phone said he was 18 years old. And so guess what it registered when he downloaded any app? That he was 18 years old. You think that was an issue? Yeah. So the ages mean absolutely nothing, especially for families and parents that don't put the restrictions immediately on those phones, and then take the time to literally look at one app at a time. My kids blow my phone up all the time. Dad, can I get this? Can I get this app? I'll look at it when I get home tonight. Yes, ma'am.
Sexting is pretty common right now.
Oh, yeah.
Kids. So what are the laws? What are the, like, if they were caught and reported it to the police or to the sheriff, what are the laws, what are the notifications for that? So we can tell them that.
Okay. It depends. That's one of those, every case is its own case. Now, I have had several cases where it depends on the content. You send nude pictures and videos to anybody that's a minor, and that's a Class A misdemeanor. It's basically called, my mind just went blank, display of harmful material to a minor. Okay. Even if you're the minor too. So one of the things that we do at the sheriff's office, and we've worked out with the district attorney's office, it is a huge problem. But do you want to file felony child pornography charges on the kid that had a picture that somebody sent him on his phone and was like, haha, that's funny, or whatever the case. Every case is different, and so we're not necessarily going to go file child porn charges on every kid that's got nudes on his phone, but we're not going to also cut slack when there's been excessive like very explicit nature, very excessive amounts of sending and receiving stuff, that's where it's going to change. Now, also, we start splitting hairs, but how many of you are visual learners? I'm a visual person, but I'm also a kinetic learner. How many of you are auditory? I can say something sexually explicit on a recording and send it to somebody, and it's not a violation of the law. I can talk to my friend on the phone. I'm 13 and they're 13, and we talk, and that's not any, but it's only for some reason that visual material is against the law. And so a friend of mine said, I've never been a visual person, and she said, my mom would finish a romance novel and she would toss it to me and I would read it, and I was 11 or 12 years old. And she said, my mom never thought about that being pornographic, and so what she was explaining, she said, I'm a very visual person, but she said, I see things in words, and so here we are with these laws that only deal with one aspect of that, and we're still getting the same problems and stuff with somebody that's kinetic or visual. We're not going to prosecute a 13-year-old for having sex with a 13-year-old. It's just not going to happen. Why? Because that's the way our culture's set up. Now, you're like, well, wait a minute, they're underage. Well, yeah, both of them are underage. What are you going to do? And so there's this huge gap where our society is only focused on certain things. Now, if we really want to get down to the brass tacks, though, our system is set up to do only enough so I don't get caught, everybody else can go to jail for it, kind of thing. And that's a whole different deal. But the fact of the matter is that it can be so many different things, breaking so many different laws, or not be a broken law at all, and almost be the exact same thing. And that's where, as parents, we have to make sure that I can't help the other kids. We have to instill in our kids that at least do everything we can to say, I've done everything that I can do to teach my kid this is right, this is wrong, this is godly, this is not, this is biblical, this is not. This is what we expect. This is the standard, this is the expectation to be held to, because it might not be against the law to go out and do X, Y, and Z, but this might be. And again, their undeveloped brains are not going to differentiate, especially when they're in the heat of the moment of doing something fun with the kid, with their friends, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I didn't know it was illegal to burn that house down. Nobody lived there. And then you're like, really? Yeah, because kids they're not there yet, especially when you start getting into the things like pack mentality and all the things that will prevent them from thinking rationally about their decisions. Good question. Yes?
Okay, what's the best way to control the video games? So like chat rooms on video games.
Don't let them play.
Okay.
But Dad! You heard me. Yeah, my kids, the only games that we allow our kids to play, our boys to play in their 30 minutes a day of screen time is games that do not have the ability to chat or communicate or interact or engage in any form or fashion with anybody for any reason whatsoever. My kids do not have an Xbox, they do not have a PlayStation, they have a $70 tablet that barely works because if you put too many apps on it, it crashes. So I have kind of a built-in poor man system of helping my kids not have a lot of things that they can get in trouble with. We don't allow anything with any level of violence. We don't allow anything other than in games that might quasi, if you stretch it really far, be educational or some form of just mindless where it's not, but they're not harming anybody or anything. And we just have a line drawn in the dirt. The only way you can truly prevent something bad from happening is to prevent your kids to be in that situation, to have to make that decision. And that takes us every app they want. I will download it, I will play it, and I will say absolutely not, or yeah, that's not. Well, it's got an E rating. Oh, that's cute. But no. I said no. Why? Because I said no. I don't have the time nor the energy to have to explain why these 3 billion apps you're not allowed to get. So we just flat out tell our kids, you can't have it. They're still living and breathing, and they're very happy children. Very, very good question. Anybody else? Okay, well, here's the deal, guys. You have contact information for me. hesitate to shoot me an email because I don't care. Shoot me an email. You're not bothering me. You guys are wonderful for being here, and I thank you for being attentive. And again, I think that, am I the last one, or is there somebody else? Good. Oh, good. I didn't want to have to end with me. But anyway, I am the last one. Fine. No, guys, you guys are great. And again, I mean what I said. You wouldn't be out there if you weren't. So thank y'all so much for taking the time to come and listen.
There's a lot of love that he's about to be one of our certified sitters.
Yes.
Right? So are you talking about those teens that we need Tim to hang out with to teach them not to play video games? Just kidding.
Still, it might be a bad idea.
So I'm super excited to share. I have another pair of sunglasses. So I kind of like these two. I think they're pretty stylish. I think you are helping serve and left them maybe. So anyway, a few more housekeeping rules. We passed out a survey. These are a must. Please fill them out so that way we can get the CEUs where they need to go. Those will come from Restore via email. Is this you?
I'm not shoving it in my pocket. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, so I think, let's see. I have a few more. Lori, Mick, Buster, or no, I'll tell you, I'm bad at this. Do we have a Lori McCaster in the house? Lori, I apologize, Lori. You are welcome to come grab something fun. Look, I'm doing every other color that's red. Corey Ponges? Oh, Corey, no. Do we have a Corey still here? No? Okay. The Reds are all going to win. The winners then. Rhonda Rowlett. Yay! Rhonda, see, all right. Okay. We go blue. Jade Burks. Jade, would you like to come grab a goodie? I'm not looking at the stars. Delane Thorne. Alex Spillers. Do we have Alex still here? No. And then Leanne Edwards. Leanne Edwards. All right, I'm going to do two more. Nobody likes the book. Nobody likes your book, Keely. Just kidding. Miss Gladys. Gladys Denzel. I'm just kidding, Keely. Oh, they have it. Everybody bought them out, and we got the leftovers. I got it. Got it. Ashley Adam. Again, sorry, I feel like I'm messing up names. Ooh, nobody. That was a peep. Dawn Mantooth. Dawn. All right. Yeah. So again, I would just love to give each one of our presenters a round of applause because this was not an easy topic to focus on. I hope that you left today feeling just like you have a little bit more tools in your tool bag, even if it's just some encouragement of hope. Taylor, thank you for being vulnerable again. You nailed it. You rocked it. You even made me cry, and I don't cry anymore. Ask Keely. But yes, just thank you for making today special. Again, thank you for 4Kids for providing that yummy taco bar from Fresh. I highly recommend that for caterings. And thank you to the staff at the Fostering Collective and Fostering Bridges for hosting us. So, two quick things. We would love to, again, before you leave, if you want to visit Jillian Sheridan over, wave Jillian. She's at the Heart Gallery. We would love, those are kids that parental rights have been terminated. Most of you probably know about the Heart Gallery, but if you have a church or a business or connections to somebody that would potentially be open to hosting a display We would love to visit with you about that, so go see Julian. And our friends at Unbound, they have, again, some really great programs. I encourage you to go speak to them, talk to them, because they can really help and provide some intervention to help prevent some of these behaviors, some of these hard things, and just support and help our kids to not feel that shame so they can work through the hard times. So, I do think, oh, yes, thank you. Everybody turn around and look, see Laura Miller. Would you take your surveys and place them in that box kindly before you go? All right, thank you so much for coming. You aren't paying attention. They're going to be emailed to you. Sunglasses, don't forget your sunglasses.
I got it. Hey, hey, how's it going? Good. Oh, they were yours?